the availability of our players is highly important, right? A.J. Brown is a special player, so you want him there for the long haul. Lane Johnson's a special player. Jalen Hurts is a special player. And we got a lot of special players. All these guys. Brandon Graham's a special player. So you want them to be as fresh as they possibly can going into the season because we know it's a long season.
Thanks for taking the time, Coach. We're going to start with Dave, and then we'll go to Olivia.
Hey, Nick. After seeing Saquon's production and workload in week one, how much thought goes into managing him throughout the season to make sure he's fresh at the end of the year? And is it a season-long plan, or is it kind of week by week?
Yeah, obviously you do everything you can do to win each football game. And so once the game's in the flow, you think about how you're going to, win that game, and whether that's Saquon getting 20 whatever touches, whether that's us throwing the ball to AJ, Devontae, Dallas, whatever it may be. You try to manage them more within practice. So, something like that with Saquon having that many touches, we'll have a plan for that this week in practice, where we can take some of the load off them there. But every time you go into the game, every game's so important in the NFL that it's hard to say when he's got a hot hand like that too, to say, hey, you don't want to keep giving him the ball because you're trying to win every single game that you play. So again, that's our job as coaches to manage that throughout the week during practice, and games will take care of itself as it goes. Like, there's going to be naturally a game where we throw it 50 times, or Kenny or Will have a couple carries. So that will take care of itself throughout the year. And as of right now, we handle that through our practice.
We'll go to Olivia and then Brooks.
Hey, Nick, you talked about Zach Bond's motor and his toughness during camp. How did you see those traits show up as he was executing all of his responsibilities in his first start, especially considering that he hadn't had many starts at inside linebacker in his career?
I think one real good shot of him, just his incredible motor, was when he came off the edge on a play, and they threw a little bubble screen to their back. And then he peeled off, and Reed Blankenship made the guy cut back in, and Zach came and hit him right on the side, and actually got a hit in on the ball that kind of jarred it a little bit. The guy did a good job of hanging onto the football, but I think that was a great example of just how he's played throughout camp and why we mentioned it during camp, and then that shows up during the game. A great indicator of how you're gonna play in games is how you practice. And, he's been relentless to the football, just having relentless effort. And that really showed up. And that showed up with, a lot of production in this game on Friday night.
We'll go to Brooks and then Ruben.
Brooks, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Nick, the Packers averaged a high amount of rushing yards before contact. From your offensive perspective, what did you see there, and reviewing tape with Vic?
Yeah, one thing that we know we got to clean up is our tackling. And I know what you asked. You said before contact, but one thing that definitely was we have to make sure that we're not giving them extra yards. That's something that's on our mind. We worked a lot of it throughout camp, but we got to keep working it and being really diligent upon that. As far as your question, Brooks, just as far as the yards before contact, that's just going to be different types of schemes that they have of when you get hands on. And I don't know exactly. To me, it's like when you play run defense, are you getting knocked back on front, and then are you getting to the ball and tackling? And I definitely saw at times we were getting that knockback. I thought Brandon Graham did an awesome job of controlling the line of scrimmage with his hands and knocking the tight end back. And so there were definitely performances there, but times that they got some push on us, at times as well that led to some of those rushing yards. But at the end of the day, we have to tackle better than we did on Friday night.
We'll go to Ruben and then Ed Kratz.
Hey, Nick, I just wanted to ask what you saw after watching film from Mackay and Cam making their first career starts at new positions.
Yeah, good question, Rube. I thought they did a nice job. I think Mackay is so big, and what you saw there with Mackay on Friday night was, he was controlling the guy. Like he was going against good players, right? That's a good front, and he was controlling them at the line of scrimmage, and there wasn't a lot of pushback into Jalen's face because he's so big and so long. That he was able to control there. And so I thought Mackay did a really nice job, particularly in the pass game, of keeping the pocket firm inside. Cam, had some really nice plays. Cam there was a couple plays where Cam's getting that initial hit, whether he's working with Landon or whether he's working with Mackay, and then getting off to that second level. I think the play that really comes to mind is Saquon's touchdown run where, it looks like, him and Mackay are working a combination block, and Cam really just gets that, block in with him, that mate block, as we call it, in with him, all right, to get him up into the second level. And so I thought those were really good plays there. And, obviously, anytime you put the ball on the ground 2 times, won't get it. There's a miscommunication there, and we can't put the ball on the ground 2 times. Cam and Jalen touch the ball on every down, and so we got to make sure we're taking care of that football. But as far as those 2 guys playing, their first game at those positions, now Cam's played that position his entire life. It'd be fair to say that Cam was not out of position, but playing a new position last year. And so center for Cam's very natural, but I thought Mackay did a really nice job, his first game starting at guard.
We'll go to Ed and then John.
Yeah, hi, Nick. I want to ask you about, we always talk about how many weapons this team has. We've seen openers where DeAndre Swift has 1 carry, Devontae Smith has no catches. It looked like there was a pretty good job distributing the ball in terms of targets for AJ, Devontae, touches for Saquon. How challenging is that to be consistent in that approach as the season goes on?
It's impossible to be consistent in that because there's going to be some game plans where it's not a game plan. Every game plan, I think I've said this to you guys, every game plan runs through those guys, right? Every game plan in the pass game is going to run through AJ, Devontae, and Dallas, and the run game plan is going to run through Saquon. But to be consistent with that would mean that teams aren't going to focus their attention to one guy. And so the great part about having all these different weapons, and Howie and his staff have done just such an unbelievable job of building this roster. But the great part of that is, when they take one guy away, they make themselves susceptible to another guy. I think that was shown, in the 4-minute drill. We were running a 4-minute drill, and and we liked the matchup there with Devontae had, and it was that second down call kind of going in. Kellen made a really good call. It was that second down call after we had lost a couple yards. It was like second 11. We hit that slant to Devontae. Why'd we do that? Well, it was just something they were doing on defensively when AJ, and we'll get into specifics of that, but with AJ, that they weren't doing as much with Devontae, and then you shift them around to take advantage of what the defense is doing. Our personnel gives us the ability to do that because they're so, we have so many different weapons that you can do that. And so it's important that the game plans go through them, but also understanding that when it goes through them, that there's going to be different circumstances that take balls away from them. And that's where it's going to be so important, the selflessness. That's why you get so excited when you see AJ and Devontae celebrating with each other after a big play, after a touchdown, or how enthusiastic Dallas and AJ are when they're getting a block for Saquon during his run, because it truly is, who's going to have the hot hand that day? What is the defense focusing on? Where are they giving you these opportunities to go with the football? And it's going to take all of them to have the type of season that we want to have and to be consistent. It's going to take every one of them to be consistent there and to be able to handle the highs and lows throughout the season of how the ball comes to you.
We'll go to John and then Jeff.
Hey, Nick, you just kind of talked about the 4 minute there that turned into 7.5 minutes from Jalen's
Isn't that a
perspective.
great thing, John?
Yeah.
When you can say when you say 4 minute and the clock and that much time came off the clock, that is like one of the coolest things that we have. Is we look at each other as coaches and we're like that was awesome. And I think we had a game like that last year against Tampa, if I remember right. Go ahead. Sorry with your question.
No, yeah, from Jalen's perspective, I'm sure he wanted some throws back, some plays back. You always talk about that next play, forget about the last play, but that's easier said than done. You look around the league, how important is it to have a quarterback who really seems to be able to forget the bad, even in the biggest spots?
Man, that to be able to be successful in those drives, you have to be able to do a little bit of both, right? You have to be able to run it efficiently. You have to be able to pass it, efficiently and when it's called upon. And Jalen was just so, calm and cool in that area of, he definitely wants plays. He's gonna definitely want plays back. We all do. But he was solely in the moment of how do we go close this game, right? We're a 2-point lead. How do we go close this game? It's hard to drive, and we gave him the ball back with 24 seconds left, down 5 points with no timeouts. That's pretty tough to do. I know as an offensive coach, you look at that and like, man, it's gonna be really hard to score a touchdown. And so Jalen, that throw on the shallow to Smitty on the second down earlier in that drive, and then the slant. He made just really good plays there on both those second downs. To get those first down and continue to have that drive. And so that was something I saw from the entire team, just like the dog mentality, the mental toughness to be able to push through, the adversities that we were going to see. We knew there's going to be adversities all season. And it's going to be within games, it's going to be week to week, it's going to be within practice. But it is so critical that they can focus their attention on the next drive and the next play, and Jalen did an unbelievable job of that. That really helped us seal that victory. Without that dog mentality, without that mental toughness that Jalen had, it'd been hard to close that game out. And so, just really, again, we couldn't have started that game any worse either. And we were down 6-0. I mean, how about the mental toughness of the defense to respond with a short field to stop them for 6 points? And then how about the mental toughness of Jalen to put us up 7-6 when we couldn't have had a worse first quarter to start our season as an offense. And so it just happened day in, day out. And again, I really believe that you get what you preach, and we talk about that a lot. The guys talk about that a lot, to be able to be in that mindset of having a clear mind to play the next play. And the guys did that, and it's a tribute to the character of the guys that we have on this football team to be able to do that in the first game of the season in front of the entire world to see.
We'll go to Jeff and then Tim.
Hey, Nick, what factored into Bryce Huff getting fewer snaps than Brandon Graham and Nolan Smith?
Yeah, just the way the snap counts went for that day. Sometimes you're in a drive, like there's different reasons for, how the drive's going. If they're going and they were going on the ball, at certain points. So like some of those plays can kind of build up, in that game with the style of game it was, and with some of the tempo that was happening. Those guys, I don't know exactly how many more reps was it, Jeff?
I think it was just a couple for Brandon and one for Nolan. Are you? This is the guy that you gave 51.
Yeah, I know, but when it's that close, when it's like one more or two more, I mean that the context of that, I didn't know exactly what it was, but yeah, I mean it's a couple more and just like with the catches or with the ball, the touches, that can go different ways each game. I knew it wasn't that much more, so okay.
Yeah, I know that you said that, and maybe Vic has said this too, that it's a new scheme for him. Is that
Sure.
is that And Huff didn't really produce much in the
No,
first.
no,
know
I
it's
just,
one game, but are you guys concerned?
yeah, no, not at all. Again, like I said, Jeff, it's just the way kind of sometimes the way it goes, and again, you want to keep guys fresh as how it goes and throughout the game. Pardon me, but sometimes that's very similar to how the touches on offense go as well.
We'll go to Tim and then Zach.
Nick, when it comes to the brotherly shove, what made Kelsey so good at his role there, and what are your thoughts on the transition this season, and what gives you the confidence that it'll be a almost automatic play for you guys moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it has been an automatic play for us as we've been through these last couple of years together with it. Jason was really good. I won't give away any secrets because obviously Cam's going to use some of those secrets. But Jason was obviously a phenomenal football player in everything that he did. And so, but as far as the way that game went, there's circumstances that, trying not to give too much away. There's circumstances that kind of go into that play being successful and not there's different things that go on, obviously, that make that play successful. And some of the things we were challenged with on Friday night made it a little bit more challenging to be successful on that play. I think what were we converted the one. We missed on, I think we were 2 of 4 at the end of the day with that. Is that right?
Yeah.
And one of them was on 3rd down, and then you converted on 4th, and we fumbled the one, yeah. So I was pleased with some of the way, with the way we were getting some push on some of them. We have some things to clean up. I think going too much into this, Tim, I respect your question, and I want to be able to answer it as best as I can. But I also will keep some things close to the vest for us.
Thank you.
We'll go to Zach and then Martin.
Hey, good afternoon, Nick. You said after the game that you'll be asked about the preseason playing time. Now that you have some context and perspective to it, how do you balance the what you admitted was some sloppiness, whether it was procedural early in the game, compared to the competitive advantage and the health that you get not playing the guys in the preseason?
Yeah, again, every year we'll go back and we'll refocus ourselves on what we need to do better. We actually do that each week. We do it after training camp. We do it during each week during training camp. Obviously, the availability of our players is highly important, right? A.J. Brown is a special player, so you want him there for the long haul. Lane Johnson's a special player. Jalen Hurts is a special player. And we got a lot of special players, all these guys. Brandon Graham's a special player. So you want them to be as fresh as they possibly can going into the season because we know it's a long season. And like I've said to you guys, Zach, practice, we are practicing highly intense practices. We're treating these like games and we're coaching them like games and we're correcting them like games and the players are taking accountability of them like games. And so, again, a great indicator of how you're going to play is how you practice. If you practice your butt off. And so, I know we're getting the work that we need during practice. Week 1 of the season, I think you could probably look around the league and see sloppy football all the way around. You're trying to control as little of that as possible. I don't think it matters who played their starters in the preseason, who didn't play their starters in the preseason. I saw sloppy football out of both sides yesterday, and I won't get into this team was sloppy and this team, whatever. But I got to sit and watch football yesterday, and there was a lot of sloppy football, just like, we had sloppy football, right? But that's something that you're constantly trying to get better at through the season, as you go. And so I'm pleased with how we've started, obviously, here. I'm pleased with how we've went about our process. We've started fast. Now, the only way to go 2-0 is if you go 1-0, and so that's our next focus. And so we've already done our evaluation of the preseason. and what we will do better next time, and things that we thought we did well. But it prepped us to get an opening day win against a very, very good opponent who, went to the divisional round last year. And again, I got a lot of respect for their coaches and that team. And so to beat a good opponent, and yeah, by the way, I think someone brought this up to me also. We haven't had a home game in 4 years on openers. And so to be able to go on the road, I know this one was considered a home game, but it was right. I believe it was the farthest we've had to travel. Atlanta wasn't as far as this. But, again, to be on the road and being in a home game or being that far away from home, and I'm pleased with how we kind of went out and performed. But a lot of things to clean up.
We'll go to Martin and then Rob.
Hi, Nick. I was wondering if you could specifically, I guess, what did you see in Jalen's 2 turnovers, and how concerning is that for you? I mean, especially considering the training camp that he had and everything like that. So yeah, I guess specifically just, what you saw in the turnovers.
Yeah, obviously we're hyper focused on the football. We talk about the football a lot. Jalen touches the ball every down, and so obviously you never want turnovers. He's trying to make a play, but we gotta take care of the football, and he's gonna want those plays back. Obviously both of them are in 3rd and long scenarios, so. Being able to take what the defense gives them in those scenarios is going to be key. Not concerned. He made a lot of good plays in this game. Like we talked about the 4-minute, even with some of these plays that didn't go his way, he made a lot of really good plays. A bunch of throws that the touchdown throw to AJ, the touchdown throw to Saquon, the 4-minute throws to Devontae, like there's a bunch of plays there. There was a 4th down throw that he made, 4th and 3, where I thought he really made a really good throw to keep the drive alive on our 2-minute drive at the end of the half to Devontae. And so made a lot of good plays. Listen, we all have a lot of things to clean up. Myself, coaches included. We got a lot of things to clean up that we want to do better, but just in those scenarios, being able to take what the defense gives us is going to be probably the main coaching point that we talked to him about. But again, made a lot of big time plays in that game that helped put that game in our favor.
Thanks.
We have time for 2 more, so we'll go to Rob and then Bob Brookover.
Hey, Nick, you mentioned watching all of the other football action yesterday. If you look around the league, it seemed like rookies in a lot of ways played like rookies, like you would expect, but that did not seem to be the case with Quinyon. How do you think he was able to avoid that? What is it that you saw when you went back and watched the film from Quinyon?
Again, he's just the moment's never too big for him. He's just very calm, and very confident, which you need to be as a corner. Right, you need to have short memories. You need to be confident in yourself because you're on an island out there the entire game. At times during the game, I know there's times where you got help over the top and this and that, but and so I just thought his poise in his first NFL game, not surprising that he doesn't get too up, he doesn't get too down. He probably had, and you saw that during camp again. Great predictor to how you're going to play. In the games is how you practice. And so he's been able to go against, AJ and Devontae throughout the entire camp. That's obviously a huge advantage that he has over different guys, that he gets to play against 2 of the best receivers in the game every day at practice. And he got to do that for OTAs. He got to do that for training camp. But again, like I said, the moment's not too big for him. He's very calm and poised, when the ball's in the air and it's coming his way.
We'll finish with Bob here.
Hey, Nick, during that last drive, you called a timeout. I think it was like 5:31 left, somewhere around there. The clock was running down. Are there things that you feel like you can do now in this role that you're a little bit different that you couldn't before, that maybe you can do better, and when is clock management one of them?
The reason I gave up the play calling, to Shane a couple years ago was because I wanted to manage the game better. And so I felt like, we've already been on that step of, hey, this is why I kind of gave this up initially, is the game management portion of it. And so I think that's similar. I think that, from the years past, because I wasn't calling it, the last 3 years, I was still being able to manage the game. Well, it's the same thing here. I'm not calling it, and I'm here. I think one thing though it does is, like, instead of having to be in every offensive meeting, and I've talked about not going just to the offensive meetings, but also going to the defensive meetings, right, to be able to kind of hear what's going on in special teams meetings. But also when we go to a Tuesday where it's our game plan day, which is going to be all messed up here this week too because we played Monday night. It gives me an opportunity to kind of look around the league and do some game management things while maybe the offense is getting ready. And I'll pop in and out of the offense to hear the game planning, to give my expertise into that. But what it allows me to do is, like, okay, I don't have to be in there at all times. I can study fourth down decisions. I can study throughout the league. I can study 2-point decisions throughout the league. I can watch all the 4 minutes throughout the league because, and 2 minutes and all those different scenarios throughout the league that are gonna. It's just like practice, right? You're putting yourself in these scenarios so you can kind of think through your process, and then you got to go back into the offensive meeting and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking here in these scenarios. Not necessarily play wise, but hey, whether it's run, pass, aggressive, not aggressive, these different things. And so that's where I think, it's a really good question. And that's where I think it's different, that I have a little bit more time to study that, on Tuesday, as opposed to what's different on game day, if that makes sense.
Great, thanks.
Thanks for the time, Coach.
Thanks, everybody.